Hello everyone, welcome to today's Stronger Kent Communities training, an introduction to marketing. Please, can you type in your name and organisation in the chat and say hello, because obviously we can't see you, so it's really nice if you can just type, and that's to the right of um, the main screen that you can see. So if you start typing in hello and your organisation, that'll be fab. It says my name's Claire on there, but I'm actually Emma. Hello, Kaylee. Hiya from Margate Caves. Brilliant. Anyone else? D. Edney, DHR Production, music workshops for young people. Fab. Ashford Street Pastors. Wonderful. Brains Matter Charity. Fab. Hello, Tracy. Sue from Fusion Maidstone. Lovely. Hello, Sue. Gareth Phillips from TCS Computer Services. And Grace from Bimix. Hello, Bimix. Okay, so I think there's quite a few more people to come, but we'll, oh, Karen, HUK Faversham and Sittingbourne. Hello, Karen. And Michelle, Who Cares? Sarah, Crest Farm Equine Connections. And 21 Together, Joanna. Supporting children and young people with Down syndrome. Wonderful. Mary from Leap into Hope. And Janet from Future Store in Tunbridge Wells. Hello everyone. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to today's trainer, who is Philippa Cowley-Thwaites. Please comment throughout the session, because obviously we can't see you, so you can do reactions and typing, and I'll monitor that chat to see if there's any questions. So I'm going to disappear now and hand you over to Philippa.
Morning everybody. I hope you're all surviving these very strange times. So we're here today to talk about marketing in a very different world to the one that we might be used to. And this is a general introduction to how marketing can benefit your organisation. So to start off with, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me so that you know who your trainer is. I'm an independent communications consultant and I run my own business called Straight Talking Communications, and I've been supporting the voluntary sector with that agency since 2009. And I'm currently the interim chair of Stronger Kent Communities, helping them to look at their own marketing during this difficult time. I've got 37 years experience, yeah I know I'm old, in marketing in the private sector, in statutory and in voluntary sectors as well, so I'm quite an all-rounder. But the last 24 years I've been in the not-for-profit sector in marketing and communications, and I've been head of comms at Macmillan Cancer Support, Asthma UK, the Royal Society of Arts and the Personal Finance Education Group before I went solo and became a freelancer. And just a little personal note, I live in Whitstable. I'm a Kent girl now. I'm a former Londoner. And I live here with my dog, Reggie. And he can be a little bit of a vocal dog. So I'm just warning you in case you hear barking in the background. So before we start, we want you to answer a little poll. How much do you think you know about marketing? What level of knowledge do you think you have? Oh, you can see the answers coming in. At the moment, we've got quite a few people who think their knowledge of marketing is poor. And we've got some fair and some good as well.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to... Hi guys, if you you should on the right hand side have it should say chat or polls or handouts, hopefully, and if you click polls, hopefully that will come up. You can see that. Brilliant. Can everyone see that now? And if you just
all the numbers are going up. Whoa.
Fab. Right, okay. Happy with that, Philippa?
Yeah, so at the moment, I think the majority of you think that you're fair, which is good. At least you've got some base knowledge to start with. Some of you think you're poor, and only one person thinks they've got good knowledge of marketing. I'm sure that's not true. You're probably thinking about some of the technical stuff, but it's fairly straightforward for everybody, which we're going to talk about today. So, again, before we start, I just want you to have a think about why you're here and why marketing might be important to you. So just take a moment to answer a couple of questions and put your answers in the chat, and Emma will share them with us. Why do you think marketing should be integral to your organisation? Why do you think it should be part of your operations? So why do you think marketing should be there? And what do you think it will help you achieve that perhaps you're not achieving now, or that you might achieve better if you've got marketing within your organisation?
So Dee's saying to reach people from different parts of the sector. So is Jackie, to reach more people to boost numbers using the service. Karen, marketing promotes your organisation in the way that you want to appeal to your audience. Liz gives a targeted approach and more clever use of time and resources. Carrie, share messages. Grace, to spread the word about what we do and raise our profile. Kerry, increase fundraising. Sue, to reach a wider audience. Susan, extend our reach. So generally reaching more people, reaching the right people as well, raising awareness, generating leads that count, says Gareth. Michelle, to raise awareness of our organisation, this will help people understand the support we offer. It will also hopefully help with corporate engagement. Kaylee, raise profile and let people know you're there and what you do. And Karen, to get people more engaged with the organisation.
Brilliant. I thought you said you didn't have a lot of knowledge about marketing. I think this is going to be a bit of a myth that gets busted during this session. Any more, Emma?
I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, for now.
Okay, so as Emma just said, you know, it's about reach, it's about being targeted, it's about telling people what you do. So what we're going to cover in this webinar is what marketing is, and importantly, what it isn't, because there are quite a few funny ideas going around about marketing, what it is, why it's important in general, in the terms we've just talked about, and right now, during the current situation, what it involves, what it means for not-for-profits and the voluntary sector, and importantly, how you can get marketing into your organisation within your capacity and the current restrictions and challenges. And we're going to be talking about the SKC marketing toolkit, which I don't know if you can see, but it will be available to you after the meeting. So let's start off. Let's get to the basics. What is marketing? Well, the Chartered Institute of Marketing defines it as the management process responsible for identifying, anticipating, and satisfying customer needs. And also, you know, there might be a bit about profit involved, but for us, we don't need to think about that quite so much. So for the voluntary sector, this means identifying a particular need and meeting it through our charitable services and support, promoting your services in order to attract service users, gain support, raise awareness, which I remember coming up in the chat. If you're a campaigning organisation, to campaign for change, and also to raise funds. It's about making the case for why your organisation is best placed to meet the needs of the people you work with, and how you make a difference and ultimately change lives. And it's also about raising awareness perhaps of a particular issue. I'm working with an organisation at the moment that talks about the discrimination against people with learning disabilities, for example. So it's looking at that issue as well as what we do to counter it. And of course, engaging a wider range of stakeholders than just ourselves in tackling it. So it's very much about need and how you're meeting it. Just a word about what marketing isn't with the cheesy marketing people. A lot of organisations that I've worked with have said marketing is the devil's work. It's only used by for-profit business. Why do we need marketing? Well, marketing is about telling your story to the people who need to hear it, so it's not just for business. Although sales is quite important in the corporate world in terms of marketing, and somebody talked about generating leads, it's not central to us in the voluntary sector. If we have some paid for services, however, it may become more prominent. But in the main, it's not that hard sell, cutthroat, come on, buy it or else. It's not only carried out by marketing professionals. Everyone in an organisation is responsible for marketing, from when you answer the phone and introduce who you are, right through to when you're at an exhibition or you're public speaking. I'm afraid it doesn't really look like it does on The Apprentice. And from some of the marketers I've seen on there, it's a jolly good job. It's not a few leaflets and a bit of PR. Lots of people think that marketing is just about promotion, but it's much more about looking at what people need and telling them how they can get it from you. Lots of people at the moment as well think it's very dependent on social media to be effective. Everyone I work with says, oh, can you help us with social media strategy? But there's a lot behind social media, like if they follow you, what are you going to do with them when they get there? How are you going to use social media to point them in the direction of other more detailed communications that they need to access? How are you going to make your service accessible? And it can't just be accessible online. I know it feels like that at the moment, but that's not what real life post-pandemic will be about. Marketing isn't something you do now and again to a formula. You need to have a process and a routine in your organisation, and you need to know what your clients want and how to be flexible when you're marketing to them. And finally, biggest myth of all, marketing is not a luxury that the not-for-profit sector can't afford. There are lots of cheap or free ways of marketing your organisation, and your biggest asset in marketing it is your people and how they talk about the organisation. So, why is marketing important? You've talked quite a lot in the chat about things like reaching people, telling people what you do, raising awareness, making sure they understand your offer, and that's exactly it. It's important because it enables you to focus on your clients' needs and find ways to meet them appropriately. So it's a two-way thing. It's not just about you saying, oh, I think they need that. It's about asking them and making sure that what you offer fits their needs. It's important as well in telling people what you do, so that more of them come to you for help and others offer you support. It's important because it shows why you're needed and the difference you make. And it helps you raise awareness, generate income, garner support, and ultimately change lives. And a really key thing as to why marketing is important is it enables all of your organisation, whether you've got paid employees or whether you're a band of volunteers, whatever you do, it enables you all to clearly define what you do and describe it in one voice and feel part of a joined up whole. A lot of organisations are based on projects, but what you're marketing to people is you as a whole, what those individual projects come together to achieve. So it's really important in making you one cohesive whole. But why is it important now? Marketing is even more important now than it usually is. Obviously, the pandemic's had a huge impact on the voluntary sector. I've known a few charities and not-for-profit organisations that have had to close. A lot are struggling for survival. And against that backdrop, donors and supporters have less to give. Some people, people are furloughed, people are perhaps being made redundant, businesses are having to look at the economics of how they run. So there's not as much available as there used to be, which can be very worrying. Corporate business is focused on its own economics and staying afloat rather than its corporate social responsibility. The only time it's really focusing on that is in terms of its employees, in terms of making sure that their well-being is paramount during this pandemic. The social focus at the moment is very much on health and supporting the NHS. So a lot of other issues are kind of getting pushed into the background. If you're a mental health charity, it's a bit of a different story because obviously we're all worrying about how people are coping with this situation. But in terms of working with the NHS, if you're reliant for income from clinical commissioning groups, you may find that their focus isn't on you for the time being. Like all organisations, at the moment, you'll be worrying about your beneficiaries, your staff, your volunteers and trustees, and yourself in this situation. So working together and feeling part of something important is even more important. The pandemic's also meant that we're using new ways of working and relying on technology and getting that marketing feeling into that rather than just having a chat on Zoom and talking more about people's needs and opening a dialogue will be even more important than ever. And obviously, as society changes because of this pandemic, lots of organisations are thinking, well, actually, what we do now doesn't really fit this new world. We need to redefine ourselves. I've been working with a homeless charity at the moment who are doing just that, and they've had to change their charitable objects slightly because they can't go out to people as much as they used to. So they're finding other ways to relate to them, and that is having a big effect on their brand. Some other reasons as to why it's important, bringing it right back down to your organisation, is that obviously everything's uncertain at the moment. So you need to tell people you're still there and what you offer. You also need to show that you're different from other players and that you stand out from the crowd because you make that extra difference, or you have that unique service that other people don't, that you have gone with the flow with this current situation and you've adapted your services accordingly. It's important now because it will help you present a stronger case for support, whether you're looking for funding, whether you're looking for new volunteers to come and help you, or whether you're looking for pro bono or practical help. You'll have to find new ways to reach people, and more than ever, it's vital to present a strong, united front. So marketing is pretty important right now, and in some ways you've got a little bit more time to think about it. An organisation without marketing is quite kind of clunky to the outside world. It's like those flat packs you get from IKEA where you've attached all the legs and then you get to the last one and there's a screw missing. What happens? You collapse. If marketing isn't in your organisation, you'll continue, if you've been like that already, to be an organisation that no one's heard of and where nobody goes. You'll feel directionless and you won't be working with your clients' needs, so you'll be unfocused as an organisation. So that marketing element of having that two-way dialogue and thinking about need is absolutely paramount. And I hate to say it, but an organisation about marketing is seen as unprofessional and lacklustre. If you're not thinking about your audiences and targeting things accordingly, and speaking their language and showing them things that they really need and how to access them, you're just going to look like you're all over the place. So, on to the nuts and bolts of marketing. Marketing is based on what they call the marketing mix, i.e. all the different factors that add up to marketing your organisation effectively. And the marketing mix is known as the 7 Ps. Now, when I first started marketing aeons ago, there were only 5. And now it's grown over time as things like technology has increased, people are playing more of an active part in organisational marketing, and things have evolved in terms of what clients expect. And you can read quite a bit about the 7 Ps in this document, which is produced by the Chartered Institute for Marketing. And it's a fab document because it's not all bound up in technicalities. Some of it veers a little bit towards the commercial, but the principles are all the same. And I think Emma's putting the link to that in the chat. Now, you can access it afterwards anyway, because we will make sure that it's available to you. And the good thing about it, it's not long. Anyway, so the 7 Ps, what are they? Just to go through the list, the 7 Ps are your product, i.e. your service or how you meet people's needs, the price, and that also includes whether you're offering it for free, which we'll talk about, promotion, which a lot of people think is marketing, but it's only one part of it, place, the place is where you actually make your product available and how you make it available, people, the people you serve, the people you work with, the people that you are in marketing your organisation, the process, how you actually help people to access your product and what process they have to follow, and also physical evidence. Now, this can mean literally physical evidence. You know, what does your premises look like? Are your staff all kind of all over the place and disorganised and look unprofessional? Is your building falling down? Things like that. And it can also mean the physical evidence that you gather together to prove that you're changing lives. So, for example, the metrics and statistics you collect, or the kinds of personal stories that you use in talking about what you do. So that all sounds quite deep and meaningful, doesn't it? But in practice, what it means is this. It's about what they get, what they pay for it, and what that might mean to you in terms of how much it costs to deliver and what the perceived value is to the people that you're giving it to. Making people aware of what they can get and how it will benefit them. Delivering and communicating what they get in the right place and making it accessible. Making an impression on your people, the people that you serve, and making sure that they make one too, including your staff. How people get what you can give them, and proving that what you offer is professional and makes a difference. So it's pretty much common sense, really. You've got something, you charge for it or you don't, you tell people about it, and all of those processes in making that happen are integral. And I like to add an 8th P to the 7 Ps, just to make it even more convoluted. But it's absolutely vital, and so many organisations come to me and ask me about this, and that is planning. If you don't plan your marketing, you will find that it's always reactive, and you're not being able to go out and talk about the things that you want to talk about and reach the people that you're targeting. You'll just be knee-jerk all the time. So planning is absolutely essential. to bring marketing into your organisation, to make it really work for you. So we'll come on to that a bit later. But we've just talked about how do we make this work for us? Well, as we begin to come out of this pandemic, or even now as we're still not sure when we're going to come out of it, it's good to step back. Quite often, when you're in the nitty-gritty day-to-day delivering your service at top speed, you don't have that capacity to get some headspace. And I'd strongly encourage you, if you can, to perhaps get together as an organisation or a small group of you to have a think about what you are and what you do now in this situation and how that might emerge going forward. A lot of you are probably doing that because it is a time for reflection, but it really can help you get your ducks in a row for when that pace picks up again. So in practice, the P's mean the following kinds of things for you. First of all, you need to look at your product or service. What can you meaningfully offer now? Is it the same as you were offering before the pandemic? Or has it changed a bit? Or are there bits that you can't offer anymore and you have a feeling that you're not going to be able to offer in the long term? And importantly, is it what your clients need? And if you don't know the answer to that question, you'll need to ask them. Now, one of the good things is at the moment, a lot of people are going online. So you can integrate polls into your website. You can do a little survey, which you can send to them by email. But ask them, what do you think your needs are from an organisation like us? Do you think they've changed during COVID? And then use that to reflect back on what you're doing and what you offer, and think about how will you describe your offer now? How will you describe it clearly, succinctly, and engagingly? And a lot of organisations talk about their 3 key messages. And really, for each of your audiences, you should have 3 key messages. What do you want to tell them about you? What do you want to tell them about how you make a difference? And what do you want them to do? And that what do you want them to do bit isn't always about, we want you to give us money, or we want you to use our services. It might be, we want you to just come and talk to one of us. We want you to lobby your MP about changing society in terms of this issue. There are lots of different calls to action that might help you to get that product out there more. So, the clue's in the title, not for profit, but more and more organisations are having to think about the price of what they offer, particularly as income's dwindling. So if you are thinking about charging for some of your services, think about how much it costs you to deliver. Can you really afford to offer some of your stuff for free anymore? And what do you think the value of that is to the people that you help and their families and those around them? If you can't offer stuff for free, can you go back, Emma, please? If you can't offer stuff for free, just think about what you could charge people who can afford to pay, so that others who can't pay can have it for free. What price is realistic? Going back to that whole place thing, think about how accessible your services are in the current climate. You might want to discuss as a team how you can still make what you do accessible and how you'll let people know about it. Lots of people are talking about befriending services going online or more and more by phone and all of that. So if you're changing how you deliver your service, you need to tell people about that, because otherwise they're going to look for you where they used to look for you and you won't be there. You'll need to consider the digital options. The National Council of Voluntary Organisations, NCVO, and Lloyds Bank Charitable Foundation are helping people to understand the digital implications of what they're doing now. There are numerous things on the NCBO Know How Not-for-Profit website. And if you go onto Lloyds Bank Charitable Foundation, you may be able to look at some of the grants that are available to organisations to help them move forward whilst this is going on, and perhaps take some of their services online, and also fund the skills of someone to come and help you do that. So that's worth having a look at. During all of this, and a lot of people forget about it, process is really important. People will be confused about the process of getting your help, so you'll need to explain this carefully. For example, a couple of organisations that I've been working with run helplines, and a lot of their staff have been unwell, so they've been unable to run the phone service as efficiently as they'd like to. So they've had to take a lot of it online and do it by live chat. And they have done a flyer and also e-communications to tell people how that works. So that process of them getting what you offer, it's really important that you let them know. And if you've got to meet different needs, it's just as important that you do shift your resources and use different processes. So, you know, if you can do that and you've got the capacity to do it, by all means change your processes, but just make sure that you tell people what's available. And the people bit, don't forget in all of this that people make your organisation what it is. If your staff and volunteers are feeling isolated and anxious and not really motivated, because if I had a fiver for everyone who told me that at the moment, I would be a very rich woman. You know, what can you do? How can they reach out to the people that you want to help convincingly? You need, as I'm sure you all know, bit motherhood and apple pie, you need to communicate with everyone and make them feel part of what you do. I know it's sad, but lots of people are doing little online Zoom get-togethers, as well as briefings and keeping up with what the organisation's doing. Because it's important that people feel like they're part of something still. And that way, they'll be able to communicate to the people that you're helping how much of a cohesive whole that is and how they can rely on you in the midst of all this confusion. It's really important to remember that everyone in your organisation is responsible for marketing. And in doing that, you have to think about how they talk about your organisation. And that might be something, again, that you'll be considering as part of looking at your product again. You need to keep them informed and involved. Like, for example, if you're doing things differently, they need to know so that they can tell people. But a really key part of that is being on message. A lot of organisations have a vision and a mission, and those are fine for your internal documents and for official ones like your annual review and communicating with funders. But there's also, how do you communicate your organisation day to day? If one of your staff was at a party and there just happened to be a local businessman there and he was chatting to her about what she does, how would she describe your organisation? And if he then talked to someone else from your organisation at that party, how would he feel if they described it differently? And you don't have to learn a script, but you do need to be able to share the essence of what you do and what you deliver in a kind of elevator pitch, if you like. So it's really important that everyone is on message when it comes to that. And during these times, your reputation is just as important as it is when you've got office premises. And your staff and volunteers are integral to that reputation. They are the face of your organisation. So just keep an eye on people. Don't be the policewoman or man. Just think about, how are they on social media? I was talking to somebody the other day who had been sharing her opinions on the issue in question on social media, and someone had then contacted her CEO and said, "Oh, is this what you think about people with this particular issue?" And it caused no end of furore. So always get your staff and volunteers to go on your own social media channels and not to use their own and talk about your organisation. It's also really important about how your people look on Zoom. You know, I've spoken to people who have backgrounds that are the deck of the Starship Enterprise, the rainforest with birds flying about in the background, and pictures of their favourite stars. Not good. Doesn't say anything about your organisation. I'm not suggesting that they have like a display stand up behind them, but I am saying just make sure that they look like they're in a place where they're doing serious business and are thinking about the people that they help. And if all of that comes together and your staff are happy, involved, and engaged in what you're doing still, even though it's remotely, you can't fail to give a good impression. And that also goes for the people that you work with. It's not just about inside the organisation. You can work with your beneficiaries, partners, and stakeholders, and especially those who've had their lives transformed by your work, to be ambassadors for your organisation. They'll be talking to people in their peer group about your organisation or about the issue that they're involved in during COVID. If they're saying about how brilliantly you're making your case and working with them during COVID, they will really be ambassadors for your organisation. A big thing about marketing at the moment is personal stories. Personal stories are what bring your organisation alive. They really speak volumes about the difference that you make, much more than a printed leaflet or a presentation or, you know, a little bit of information you give to people is going to tell them. Storytelling is a big thing in marketing now for the corporate and the not-for-profit sectors. And it's really about encouraging the people that you help to speak up about how their lives have changed. At the moment, I'm working with Lloyds Bank Charitable Foundation on a project called Homeless Stories, where 6 charities have been given the opportunity to make films. You can make your own films. They might not be super duper, but you can make them on your phones. You can talk to the people who are helping you and maybe put them on your social media, just so that people know they're still being helped during this pandemic and other people find out that they're being helped as well. So whilst you've got, you know, time to talk to people a bit more perhaps in a one-to-one situation online, ask them if they'll share their story with you. Jot down a few notes about how they came into contact with you, the difference you've made, the services that they've accessed, and how they feel as a result, because you can use that to bring some of the perhaps more business-like information about your organisation alive. Obviously, promotion is crucial, and a lot of people think that promotion is marketing. And lots of organisations use social media, press and media relations, and printed or e-materials like newsletters, flyers, and leaflets to engage with their audiences. And at the beginning, in the bit about, you know, why is marketing important to your organisation, the word targeted was mentioned, and that is absolutely crucial in your promotions. You can talk about your organisation until the cows come home, but if you're not targeting specific audiences, whether they are people that you help or people that you want to influence, you're not going, if you're not speaking their language and talking about their areas of interest and making it relevant to them, it's not going to fly. So it's really important that you think about that when you're using different promotional items, to talk how they would talk, and to make things simple and easy to understand. In our SKC Marketing Toolkit, which will be available to you after this webinar, we've got lots of different templates of ways that you can write press releases, look at your social media, think about what you include in your newsletters and things like that to talk to your audiences. So you'll find quite a bit of information in there. But if there's an appetite for it, I could run a session around targeting your audiences in the ways that will work best for your organisation. Obviously, in promotion, digital platforms are even more important now because everyone's using them. And it is quite important to have a good look at your website and make sure it's up to scratch, easy to use, and still talks to your audiences and meets their needs. Lots of people just fire stuff off on social media, but it doesn't always work because it might not quite fit the people in the particular platform that you're using. So, for example, I helped an organisation run a digital fundraising appeal, and they were much more chatty on Facebook. On Twitter, they were much more about the issue and changing lives. And on Instagram, they were able to post lots of pictures of people actually being helped and benefiting from the services that they offer. So whilst you're using it more perhaps during this pandemic, you need to think about, is it the right content for each of those sites? And how do you bring it alive? In the same way, you might be getting more subscribers to your newsletter because it's easily accessible during these difficult times. And is it current? Is it topical? And is it written for digital, i.e. not too long? Do you think about your audiences? Do you gear content and messages towards your different stakeholder groups, or do you treat them all the same? I think we've covered that. And do you think about the places where they'll look for information at the moment locally? People are still reading the local papers, and if they haven't got them in print or they're worried about going out to get one at the moment, they'll look at them online. And a lot of people are relying on their local news bulletins on TV to keep them up to date with what's happening during COVID, the statistics, how safe it is in their area. But a large proportion of your lunchtime or evening news bulletins that are local talk about charities. So it's worth sending your media releases or even targeting some of your leaflets and stuff to your local news team, because they do cover charities and they also choose organisations that are offering hope at a particularly hopeless time. So don't forget that, because it's quite an important thing to include in your sort of portfolio of promotional materials.
Oh, hang on.
Next.
Just typing something.
So back to the physical evidence and how it will work for you. Obviously, at the moment, you're probably, not operating out of premises as much as you have in the past. Some of you may be, some of you may not be. But always make sure that they're welcoming and tidy. Make sure your website, which is your shop window and communications, if you don't have a website, are professional, easy to access and simple. As we've said, make sure that your staff and volunteers are on message, and make sure that you've got a strong brand. Your brand is not just about a logo. It doesn't really matter whether you've got a little blob that represents what you do or not. It's about what you say about your organisation and what it does, i.e. what it represents, and also it's about what people experience from your organisation. They are the two things that really make up your brand. And you can have a nice little logo to depict that, and you can even have a strap line saying supporting people with cancer or whatever it is you do. But If you can't describe what you do in an engaging and simple way, and people don't experience very much when they try and access your service, you haven't really got a brand. And also, as we said earlier, you can take some time now perhaps to make the physical evidence bit work for you a bit more. Get some feedback from people. You can do it off the back of emailing people or putting a poll up and saying, how are you feeling during this pandemic? What do you think about how we can help you during this time? What do you like about us? And get some feedback that will help to show how you make a difference, but also inform what you do next. You need to plan more and measure your outcomes. And you could be using this time to collect evidence about the things that you do. If you've been meaning to interrogate your database to pull off statistics about how many people you've helped, in what way, how they've heard about you, whatever, it's quite a good time to do it. And you need to look at how your communication works. It's always worth investing in analytics so that you can see how many people are using your website, that it's gone up during this time, how many people are retweeting or reposting your social media stuff, whether you've had media coverage about what you do. And the other anecdotal evidence like case studies and personal stories are also really important. And if you're going to be moving forward with perhaps a slightly new offer, or you're going to be maybe taking a different shape when you go back out into the world, building up this evidence in advance will give you quite a lot of strong justification about why you're important, why you're hitting the ground running and helping people in ways that other organisations don't. Planning. I love planning. I think planning is really important. And having a comms plan doesn't have to be a huge weighty tome that sits on a shelf and you never look at it again. All you need to do is ask yourselves what you want to achieve in terms of your organisation. So if you've got strategic objectives you want to achieve, think about the implications of those for marketing. You know, if you want to increase your reach, how does that fit with your marketing? What are you going to do that? And whatever you're planning, just check it against your mission statement. If in your mission statement you say that you help lots of young people to move on in their lives, and then you go out and do something for people that are 25 to 30 and not under that figure, you're not really on mission. So why are you planning an event that just involves those people? Just use it as a kind of sense check. Are we doing this for the right reasons? When you're thinking about how you want to communicate with your audiences and how you want to just simply promote your organisation in a generic way going forward, write it down and look at how you can break it down into chunks. You know, you might want to target a particular audience one quarter and a different audience the next. But whatever you plan, identify your clear outcomes. You know, what will success look like? Will you have more people using your service? Could you have achieved a question being raised in Parliament to make your profile higher? Are you doing something to get more people to ask you to speak publicly? All of those are strong outcomes in terms of marketing. And then you just have to look at what the outcomes of those are, whether they achieve your targets in getting wider known and getting your products out there to all the people you want to reach. When you're planning, when you're planning, don't forget to involve your organisation because they're all working with you. You might want to distill it down into a smaller group, but always get those people to ask the people within your organisation that they work with directly to give you feedback on what you're planning to do. and that helps you to build a marketing culture in your organisation. You can review your plan at team meetings, you can ask for suggestions, and you can adapt your plan in line with the changing world, which you will get feedback on from your staff, volunteers, trustees, and beneficiaries. So, now that I've talked to you to death, I want you to think about something. You've heard quite a bit about marketing, and it's very difficult in an introduction not to cover everything and perhaps make it look a little bit multi-layered and daunting, which I can assure you it's not. So, what are the things that perhaps stop you from bringing marketing into your organisation? What are the barriers and challenges that just make you think, oh no, we can't really do this, it's too difficult? And just share your answers via the chat, and Emma will share those with me.
So I've got one from Dee saying self-belief and motivation in these times, and Lynn is saying time. Time is very popular.
Yeah.
Anyone else? What's stopping you? How to simplify something that seems complicated, from Liz.
Yeah.
And Kaylee from Margate Caves, time and feeling like at the moment we're not the priority.
Right.
Is there a visitor attraction, obviously?
Right.
Grace, engaging specific target audiences. Jackie, the feeling I might get it wrong. Janet, one person doing everything, so time constraints. Tracy, getting everyone on board. Karen, also content can be an issue. Our staff are too busy doing their work to collate photos and good news stories. Michelle, time and targeting an audience that is not online. And Jackie, my service users are reluctant to engage with social media. That's brilliant. Thank you, everyone. Carrie, so many priorities to marketing. It's where to start. And Joanna's agreeing that creating content is very time consuming. Where to start, pulling it together. Brilliant.
Great. Okay. Well, moving on from that, which is all very helpful, it's quite interesting some of the things that you've raised. The common barriers are we can't afford it, we're too busy doing the day job, we don't have the right skills, we might mess it up, we can't get commitment from our team, and everyone's a bit cynical about it. Now, quite often, there are those practical considerations as well about because people are cynical about it, they're not sharing things you could put on social media, they're not contributing. When people feel really busy, that can affect all of that as well. And spending that time looking at content, you know, all of those other things have kind of an effect on that as well. So, the things that you can do to try and counter that, and I haven't included this in the slide, but I'm going to say it because a lot of people are saying, how do we start? Well, I would say go back to basics, get together and talk about what you do, why you do it, what gets you out of bed in the morning, why it's important, and look at what your offer is now and how you engage people with it. Just what do you want to tell people about what you do? And if you involve a lot of people in that across your organisation, you're going to see what it's like from the grassroots level and what it's like if you're a senior manager. And just begin to bring common ground together so that people can really understand how they all fit. And, you know, work on that to start with. Yes, you might not be a priority at the moment, or other things might be going. But if you can include that description, this is why we're here to help you in the different things that you do, it will just start to percolate down what you're about. and people will engage with that. So that's a very easy thing you can just begin to do, and that collective decision around that will hopefully get you a bit more focused on what it is you're all about. You can use lots of cheap or free marketing methods. SKC has a network of preferred suppliers who can help you with some of that. But in our marketing toolkit, we talk quite a lot about press releases and how you post things on social media in an easy and kind of not too time consuming way. So that should help you to use some communications methods to start to build marketing into your organisation and not feel like it's going to break the bank. I think it's really important. You don't have to use all the comms tools available to you at once. If you just concentrate on getting it right in word of mouth, making sure that any information you produce tells a consistent story about you, then you can start to build from there. But quite often people are juggling too many channels, and so they just make a mess of it. So you might want to identify some quick wins that you want to do, and some of your volunteers could help you with that. Some of your volunteers might be real social media whizzes, and if you give them the right messages, they can just build things around them and post them. Again, use our toolkit, come on our training. We've got some expert volunteers who can parachute in from time to time to help you. As things get easier and you start looking at planning for the future with your organisation, just build the marketing implications into that. Don't feel you've got to do this great individual plan. Just begin to say, so how will we communicate that? Or how will we make that accessible? Who will we reach? And the whole thing that we've been talking about keeping your staff informed and involved regularly and consistently, should begin to counter cynicism. But it's got to be two-way. Ask them their opinions, ask them what works for them. So start simple. Just take the time to perhaps do this little exercise in the near future. Take stock, have a bit of a brainstorm with your team. Where are you now? What do you do? Why are you here? Does it look different now? How would you describe it? And celebrate the good stuff. When you're talking about that, talk about all the good things that you do and why people have had their lives changed, how. And share some of those findings and talk about what makes your organisation special. As part of that, what do we offer? Who do you want to tell about all of that over the next 6 months? Whilst you're planning how to get marketing into your organisation, you could just simply say, right, who do we want to target, and tell them what we're offering at the moment. And what do you want to say to them? How are you going to tell them? Just choose 3 channels if that's how you want to do it. And what do you want to achieve by telling them? What will that do for the organisation? You might think, oh, a real simple outcome is that people know we're still here at a time of great uncertainty and are reaching out to us. So use that little checklist when you get time or when you're meeting together as a group, just to have a look inwards and think about how you might begin to project that outwards. So we are at the end of our webinar. Thank you very much for listening. Just before you go, just to let you know that the marketing toolkit and the 7 Ps document will be available. And just want you, before we go, to do our poll again. How much do you think you know about marketing now?
I'm just going to share it. Hang on, it's a different one. Add new. How would you? There we go. Share now.
What's your level of knowledge? Hurrah! No one is saying poor. That's fantastic. I know it's a lot to take in an hour, but the slides will be available to you as well, so you can go back through them and use them as a kind of sense check in, you know, what level do we think we're at in terms of marketing, and what are the simple things we can do to start off with. And if you'd like to put to Emma anything that you really would benefit from being covered in this training going forward, you know, I'm more than happy to do some sessions on things that perhaps are a bit more specific and in depth. So thank you all very much, and I hope that you don't feel quite as worried about marketing as you did at the beginning of our chat today.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. Really nice feedback, Philippa, in the chat. So they're saying loads of stuff was covered. It's a great basis to start from. So really helpful, and look forward to receiving the toolkit. So it looks like it's gone down quite well, Philippa. So well done.
Hurrah! Well, thank you all for
All
listening.
right then, brilliant. Bye, everyone. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Big
Bye.
cuddle to your dog. Bye.
Oh, yes, he needs a big cuddle. He's very clingy at the moment, my dog.
So yeah, I think that's everyone pretty much gone now. So
Oh,
I
good.
was going to I was gonna send out a poll as well, Philippa. So hang on, I'm just gonna end this. If you can give me a call in a second, that would be brilliant. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye, Lynn. Oh, why is it not letting me do it? Ah.